What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. Wow! Your man's Dillian, the booty snatcher, the booty buster Whyte, has aired out Tyson scary fury. Yeah? Tyson the scariest one. Now, listen. This is what Dillian said. Listen. He goes, Tyson scary. No, wait there. Tyson scary is a Wanker. A big circle jerker. That's what he said. Listen, Dillian said, Tyson Scary is in the middle. Tyson Scary is a don who sits in the middle of a whole bag of man stroking themselves off. In fact, tell I, Tyson Scary is in the middle of a whole bag of man and he's stroking them all off 100%. That's what he said. He said Tyson Scary is a Wanker. Yeah? So, I'm just trying to paint you, man, the picture. Scary's in the middle, and there's a whole bag of man, and Fury's just, you know what I'm saying, grabbing what he can, and stroking all the man, no doubt. And he's, let me carry on with the rest of the quote here. So Tyson Scary is a Wanker, and a disgrace to British boxing. If he has caught C19 and gone around Las Vegas mixing with the fans after cancelling the Deontay Wilder fight. He talks shit because when you have C19 you are sick and you have to quarantine, and instead he's walking around smiling, mixing and taking photos of people. Either he has got it or he hasn't. They said his mate and sparring partner Joseph Parker had it, and the next minute he's out at the UFC denying it. There are videos and photos of him out and about, happy as Larry, just like he was when the Anthony Joshua fight got cancelled. Wow, this is explosive. Dillian ain't taking no prisoners. Let me say it one more time. Let me rewind that one. Yeah, there are photos and pictures of him out and about, happy as Larry, just like he was when the AJ fight got cancelled. Wow, wow. Tyson Scary looking super bad right now. Dillian goes on. The biggest fight in British boxing history was cancelled, and he was laughing and joking about it. It is exactly the same now the Wilder fight has been cancelled, because of him apparently having C19. Loads of boxers are using C19 as an excuse to pull out of fights, or as a backup excuse if they lose. These guys are irresponsible if they are using C19 when it is killing people and devastating families all around the world. Wow. So there you go then. There's yeah, in fact, no, Dillian Whyte goes on. Fury knew that this fight was dying on its arse, and he pulled out. They couldn't give a ticket away as Brits were not travelling, and none of the TV companies were bothered about another 5 a.m. fight against a bloke he has already beaten. Money is everything to Fury. Oh no, where is that £7 million he supposedly donated to the homeless charities after the first Wilder fight? Oops. Tyson Scary talks a lot of shit and people sadly lap it up. Tyson Scary has FUCK'd the entire heavyweight boxing scene all around the world, and the whole sport is struggling because of it. When the heavyweights are buzzing, the whole sport is buzzing. And when it's rubbish, the whole sport suffers. Losing the AJ versus Fury fight has FUCK'd boxing because casual fans just see big fights not happening and people at the top lying to them or fighting bums instead. Wow! Fury is a nasty piece of work, a pagan, and his biggest skill is conning. Rewind selector. Fury is a nasty piece of work and a pagan, yeah? And his biggest skill is conning the public. Conning the public. Rewind, yeah? No doubt. Fury is a nasty piece of work and a pagan, and his biggest skill is conning the public, because they always end up feeling sorry for him. Yeah? Not over here, we don't. Fury's a big muppet. Yeah? A big muppet with big boobs on his back. The only thing I want from Fury is to suck on them boobies on his back. No doubt. Yeah? Next thing he says. Where were we? Boxing is a joke right now. Every other sport is getting attention, and it's because he has now FUCK 2 or 3 of the biggest fights around. Wow! So you just heard there from Dillian. Listen, Dillian ain't taking no prisoners. Not even a little bit of prisoners. In fact, he goes on. He ain't finished. Check this. If Fury fights in October, then he will have been out of the ring, not defending the WBC title for 20 months. Almost 2 years. That is criminal. He messed me around when ordered by the WBC to fight me for the diamond belt that he asked for. He messed AJ around on the undisputed fight, and now he has messed Wilder around on their rematch. The WBC is a prestigious belt, and I don't understand how they can tolerate this guy taking the piss with their biggest belt. It will have only been fought for 5 times in the last 4 years against 3 different opponents. Enough is enough. Tyson Scary should be made champion in recess. Elevate me from interim champion to champion, and I will fight Wilder straight away. So there we go. I don't think there's any more to read. But it's too. Listen, my man don't stop talking. But listen, more time. It was some good talk still. Yeah. End of the day, yeah. In fact, no, there is some more. Let me read some more out. If and when Fury is ever ready to fight, he can fight the winner of me and Wilder, which will be me. And then the winner of that, the rightful WBC champion, can fight AJ for all the belts. In 3 simple fights, you would know the real #1 undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. All this nonsense has to stop. Wow, check this out. Fury's management team, MTK Global Cartel, refused to comment when approached by Sun Sport. Don't that say it all? Yeah, and it's interesting. If you man want to hear more on this WBC situation, check out my last video, because in my last video I leaked some explosive information on what go on with the WBC. Because you man best believe this ain't like, what's the word? This ain't no passive thing. It's not a case of, oh, well, the WBC is just naive. No, we're talking about illicit corruption going on. Yeah? Tyson Scary's management team are paying the WBC to sit there and do nothing. This isn't like nowhere else does this exist. In every other sport, people are trying to make money. The WBC are making money. They're just making money, not with the belt. They're paid to essentially leave Tyson Scary alone, because nothing else makes sense. And that's what I completely feel Dillian Whyte's frustrations, and even more so, Dillian Whyte's frustrated, yeah, because guess what? He sees things not being done that he is more than willing to do. And again, it's even more frustrating for him because he sees these people getting all this praise. Tyson Scary, Deontay Wilder get all this praise. All this praise they get. And what are they doing? Now, let's take Wilder out of it for a second, but it was him before. Let's not make out it's just Fury. If Wilder was playing similar games, although at least he was somewhat active, Fury don't even want to fight, full stop. At least Wilder fought Ortiz. Now, I don't rate Ortiz, but when was the last time Fury fought an Ortiz? Exactly. We don't know. Now, I guess you could say, I'd say Wilder's similar to Ortiz, so I guess you can say, yeah, Fury has fought Wilder, but even then, he's playing games now. And this is the thing with Fury, you can't even he's not even consistently fighting bums. At least with Wilder, yeah. Wilder, he was consistently fighting something. Fury don't want to fight nothing. He don't want to fight Wilder. He don't want to do this, he don't want to do that. And another point that Dillian Whyte makes, he brings up the whole WBC diamond belt thing. There was a period of time, not sure when, but there was a period of time, I believe it may have been when Fury came back, just before the first Wilder fight, or 6 months before. Fury said, WBC, give me the diamond belt and I'll fill Dillian Whyte in for you. The WBC came back and said, yep, I'm happy to sanction that. Dillian Whyte versus Fury for the WBC diamond belt. At which point, Dillian, of course, jumped all over it. At which point, Fury went stone cold Steve Austin and didn't reply. But there in itself is evidence of where the corruption kind of began. That's when MTK started paying the WBC to keep well off Fury. Because at that point, yeah, when, I think that was in 2017, 6 months later, Tyson Scary was being put in to fight Wilder. They should have said, Fury, how can we sanction you above Dillian Whyte when we've already given you an opportunity at one of our belts and you threw it back in our face? The WBC didn't have to say, yes, we'll give you our diamond belt to fight Dillian Whyte. Bearing in mind, let's not forget as well, this wasn't a case of, well, Dillian Whyte called him out YB and Fury wasn't on it. Fury was the one who brought it up. Fury said, give me WBC diamond belt and it's on video and I'll fill Dillian in for you. The WBC went out of their way to organise it and Fury just dropped off the map. But again, like I said, it proves the level of corruption here. It proves where the money's flowing. Because the WBC got played around by Fury, and then 9 months later, they was happy to sanction Fury versus Wilder for the real belt. How? Like what? Where do they do that? Where they do it? Don't no one know. Because normally, when you play someone about, they say, "Listen, we already give you a chance." So unfortunately, we're not going to sanction Fury versus Wilder. Because at that time, the reason the fight got sanctioned was because obviously Fury was a relatively big name, but also Wilder actually wanted the fight. So they said, okay, we can hit two birds with one stone. We get a relatively big payday, and Wilder wants to fight. But you should have said, listen, we're not prepared to sanction Fury until he fights Dillian Whyte. Until he fulfills his, you know what I'm saying? Until he fulfills what he said he wanted a while ago. Or better yet, we're not prepared to sanction Fury versus Wilder until Dillian's fought Wilder. Why? Because Dillian hasn't played us around. Since when, yeah, do people get to play you around and they get more credits than the people who have been loyal? Dillian's been loyal to a fault with the WBC. And I think Dillian's been watching the YB's videos, because I was the one that said, to be fair, it's not rocket science, but either way, Dillian said in this, going back to this post, these quotes in this speech from earlier, from a minute ago, Dillian Whyte said, Fury needs to be champion in recess. Me and Deontay Wilder fight for the belt. And then take it from there. That's what should happen right now. But again, why won't it happen? Corruption. MTK are paying the WBC. That's the bottom line. And if you disagree, you show me the evidence you have that's not the case. Because everything I'm looking at points to absolute money's flowing. Nothing can explain how a WBC belt can sit inactive for 2 years. Nothing can. No legitimate business. I mean, I'm not being funny. We've heard about the economic recession or the economic stress over the last 2 years. But somehow, despite the economic stress, the WBC had no problem. You'd think after 2 years of inactivity they'd be eager to get back to it, wouldn't you? Nope. They're happy. They're happy for flimsy excuses. They're happy to sit there whilst people have to go, like, I'm not being funny, yeah? The whole court case. Listen, let me say something. Let me tell you, give you an asterisk here. I'm not 100% sure the court case even exists between Wilder and Fury. I don't know, but if it does exist, why was that even the case? The WBC should have stepped in and said, Fury, you are fighting Wilder next. Or not, by the way. Because I do have to tell you, man, something. People forget, the court case is about Tyson Fury. The belt is independent. WBC is an independent company, which means that they can at any time, they can do what they want with their belt, essentially. Wilder only has a claim on Tyson Fury, who so happens to have the belt, meaning that back last year, the WBC could have said, you must fight using this belt by December. I don't care how you work it out, get it done. They didn't do that. And that's why that's one of the big reasons that the lawsuit or the arbitrator even exists. Because if Fury had been told you need to fight Wilder by the end of the year, regardless of fans, regardless of any excuses, get it done. I mean, he may have been happy to get stripped, but my guess is he would have. Well, certainly it wouldn't have hurt, would it? It wouldn't have hurt for the WBC to put their foot down. But instead, what happened? Crazily enough, for the last 20 months, the WBC has been absolutely silent. Back in October, when they heard Deontay Wilder was thinking about filing the arbitrator thing, why didn't the WBC step in and say, Wilder, Fury, what are your problems? Why aren't you fighting? Let us help this. Get this fight done by January, else we're stripping you. And the belt, and whoever wants to fight, whoever signs the contract first to fight Dillian Whyte or to fight our number one, so be it. That's what you should have done. But they didn't. What did they do instead? Well, never mind what did they do instead. They've done nothing. The WBC has taken no action in the last 20 months. They sat there and allowed Wilder to allegedly take Fury to court. And just sat there. They was happy Fury playing games and messing around. Can you explain that? Meanwhile, you've got the WBO telling AJ you've got a week or we're stripping you. Do you understand? Do you see the confusion here? Explain that behaviour to me. Explain how AJ can have a massive fight fall through and be pressured within a week to make a decision. Meanwhile, Fury's just moving with the wind, saying, I don't want to fight, there's no fans, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to fight him, I don't want to... And nothing happens. Never once has the WBC ever. Never mind, it's one thing saying you're going to be stripped. They haven't even given Fury a deadline. No deadlines. Since when is that a thing? Since when can you just have a belt and you just float around for 2 years? Exactly. Like I said, the only thing that explains this is pure corruption. And MTK are paying him. Paying WBC. If not, explain it. If not, how does it make sense a belt just sits there and is happy to be not used for 20 months? Now you can blame C19, but guess what? C19 didn't stop. I'm pretty sure AJ and Pulev had to fight by the end of December. I'm sure AJ was given a deadline of X amount of days or a certain date. If you haven't fought Pulev, your belt's gone. AJ was getting it, so it's not a case of, innit? The pandemic wasn't that bad because everyone else was getting deadlines. Everyone else had to be active. But this man Fury just gets to mess around, and this is the crazy thing. We're more or less to the next year now. We're now 7 months after the pandemic's over, more or less. And still, no deadline. And even now, when Fury's pulled out, yeah, the WBC still hasn't said, alright Fury, we sat by and watched you waste a whole year in 2020. We sat by and watched a whole lawsuit play out. We sat by and watched you lose a lawsuit. We sat by and watched you schedule a date for July 28th. We sat by and watched you pull out of the date of July 28th. Unfortunately, we're drawing the line here. Number one, they could take the more lenient stance and say, alright, we're going to call it now. If you haven't fought by October 8th, you will be stripped. Or more pressingly, in my opinion, what they should do is say, Fury, we've just listed to you all the things that's gone on and how we've sat there like side men and done nothing. This was the final straw for us. You forced us to, July 24th really was the final straw. We can't be any more side men. So we're stripping you and making you champion in recess. Wilder and Dillian Whyte will fight in August. If you're ready to go in October, we will mandate you versus the winner to be completed by December 31st or whenever. By the end of the year. That's as simple as that. That's what should be happening right now. Instead, we didn't even get the lenient option. They haven't even stepped in and said, yep, Fury, we want to make sure we put some control variables here. Because, for example, Fury may well be, as I've speculated, planning on pulling out of the October thing. So, as a business, WBC, you should be wanting to put little insurances in there, which would be, Fury, we're just letting you know in advance, this belt hasn't been active for 2 years, and we're not prepared for any more inactivity. Therefore, obviously you wouldn't say it exactly like this, but you'd hint kind of thing that Just in case you are planning on pulling out again in October, we're letting you know if you haven't fought for this belt by the end of October, you won't have it no more. You will be stripped. Because at least then, you know what I mean, you built some pressure in. But how it's been left is that, well, if you pull out, we haven't even said nothing, so you're happy to pull out. That makes sense? What business do you know can operate like that, with such uncertainty and such loosey-goosiness? Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not being funny, but are they even a governing body anymore? Because you ain't, or are you even a commission, or whatever it is? Because you ain't governing no fights. All your belt is used for is a PR tool and for Tyson Scary to sell more t-shirts. Oh, I'm the champion, I'm a WBC champion. It's not used to fight with. It's not used to represent. It's used as a big show me tool. Look at me. That's all it is, isn't it? It has no practicality. And the fact you haven't stepped in and put a barrier in for October, it worries me. And it also, or not only does it worry me, but it also proves that there's money flowing from Team Fury to WBC. There's just no way. There's no way an organisation can be this lackadaisical. And unfortunately, the fact that WBC haven't stepped in not only implies corruption, but also it shows where this is going. It shows there will be another pullout. And it shows they all know that they're all playing the game together. Because if they weren't playing the game together, the WBC would have stepped in by now and said, we're drawing the line at the end of October. They haven't, which tells me they don't want any, like, they don't want to make sure it happens in October. They're happy for there to be a pullout, and most likely there will be a pullout. Because if they were sure there wasn't, if they were sure there wouldn't be a pullout, they'd have put the security in already. They'd have said, "Yeah, we're going to strip you if you haven't got it done by October." Because listen, governing bodies here don't have no problem telling AJ, if you haven't fought Pulev by the end of December, you're getting stripped. AJ, if you don't sign to fight Usyk in a month, we're going to strip you. My man AJ is fighting there twice a year. Fighting top competition as well. As much as he can. But anyway, Dillian Whyte, I agree with him, I feel sorry for him, but like I said in my last video, ultimately, AJ, the rest of the heavyweight division can't go on like this, meaning that the WBC is a kangaroo belt, and someone needs to take charge of this and say, listen, just forget about it. And in a way, that's what I think all fighters should do. All heavyweight fighters, should unify now. See how the WBC's been playing and say, you know what, let's make a point here. I believe no one should want to fight for the WBC again on principle. All fighters should get together and say, we're boycotting the WBC. On principle. Because whether you're an up-and-coming guy or a current champion, you should all be able to see that things aren't right here. And I think they should isolate the WBC and make them look silly. Because imagine, if no fighter wants to fight for the WBC again. Imagine it. And that's as fans and as boxers, that's what we have to start doing. If you just go along to get along, well, I'm going to keep begging for a WBC fight, they retain their power. Only when people take action to say, fans, we're not going to watch any more WBC fights. Boxers, we're not going to fight for the WBC. I mean, for example, if AJ came out, or if Dillian Whyte and AJ got together and said that, I'd do that. I'd happily get behind that and say, you know what, I ain't going to watch no more WBC fights, even though I'm not paying for them anyway, but you know what I'm saying? I'd get behind that. But I don't know. I think people are just begging for acceptance. People are just begging for the belt. I just don't get it myself. For me, it's more about principle. I don't want a belt, genuinely. Now, having seen how they've operated, I don't want a WBC, genuinely. That's how I feel. For what? Oh, well, I mean, you want to become a 4-belt champion. But 4 belts of what, though? What do you stand for? To hold a belt, it's supposed to mean something. It's not supposed to mean, well, we're paid by MTK. It's not supposed to mean, well, your champion can be inactive for 20 months and pull out and do all kind of goofy stuff. That's not what it's supposed to represent. And if it does do that, we've got to separate ourselves and say, listen, we don't want to be a champion of an organisation who encourages and enables people to just take the piss out of the fans, out of the sport, out of everything. But these people do, so I guess it is what it is. The more we, I mean, it's difficult. There has to be an alliance